Episode 3. Displacement of anger in mass shooters. One of the most extreme and tragic consequences of unresolved childhood trauma is the displacement of anger onto innocent others, as seen in many mass shooter cases. A significant number of mass shooters share a history of childhood trauma, including neglect, abuse, or abandonment, particularly from their primary caregivers. These unprocessed wounds often leave individuals struggling with powerlessness, anger, and rejection, which they may later redirect towards society at large. Supportive evidence. Link between childhood trauma and violence. A study by Dr. Gillian Peterson and Dr. James Densley, analyzing data from 171 mass shooters, found that 100% of individuals studied had experienced significant early life trauma, including emotional or physical neglect or abuse. Many shooters also exhibited symptoms of untreated mental health conditions, exacerbated by these early experiences. The National Council for Behavioral Health highlights that adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, like maternal neglect or abuse, increase the likelihood of violent behavior in adulthood. Relationships with primary caregivers as a source of pain. In many cases, parental neglect or abuse becomes the origin of a lifelong emotional wound. Since children are dependent on their primary caregivers for safety and emotional regulation, parental failure can leave a profound void, fostering deep-seated anger and resentment. Case example: Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook shooter, had a history of isolation and a reportedly strained relationship with his mother. His mother's inability to address his emotional needs may have contributed to his increasing detachment and eventual violence. Displacement of anger. Research on aggression shows that when individuals cannot confront the direct source of their anger, they often redirect it toward less threatening or more accessible targets. In the context of mass shooters, this displacement manifests as revenge against society, which they perceive as either complicit in or indifferent to their suffering. Emotional repression and externalization. Dr. Bruce Perry, a leading expert on childhood trauma, explains that early trauma often leads to an inability to process emotions effectively. This unprocessed anger can fester, leading to externalized violence as a means of expressing inner turmoil. Real-life examples. Elliot Rodger, 2014 Isla Vista shooting. Rodger expressed deep resentment in his manifesto toward his mother, blaming her for his perceived inadequacies. Unable to confront her, he turned his anger toward women and society, committing a mass shooting as an act of revenge. Nicholas Cruz, 2018 Parkland shooting. Cruz's history of neglect and abandonment by his biological mother was cited in reports as a contributing factor to his emotional instability. His inability to process these feelings played a role in his violent outburst. Why maternal trauma can be central. Mothers are often the primary attachment figure in a child's life. When this relationship is fraught with neglect or abuse, children are left without the emotional tools to cope with stress or rejection. This unhealed trauma can evolve into a profound sense of injustice, leading to acts of violence as an attempt to reclaim power or express unresolved pain. Conclusion: the need for intervention. Early intervention is critical to breaking this cycle of trauma and violence. Identifying at-risk individuals and providing trauma-informed care can help address the root causes of anger and pain, preventing future tragedies. By fostering awareness of the role of primary caregivers in shaping emotional health, society can work toward reducing the prevalence of displaced anger and its devastating consequences.